In this video, we're going to discuss the topic of shallowing the club in the downswing. It's a popular topic that gets discussed quite a lot on the internet and in golf instruction videos everywhere. But understanding how the wrists work with the help of the HackMotion wrist sensor will today, maybe for the first time, help you truly understand the movements you need to be making if you really want to shallow this shaft correctly. So what is shallowing the shaft and why is it even important? Well, it speaks a little bit to the fact that we play golf with these clubs that are bent on an angle. We have to conform to some sort of arc or plane around our body. And a steep golf swing would speak to the fact that the shaft of the golf club at some point in the swing gets too vertical. That vertical shaft doesn't work when we're standing to the side of the ball with clubs that are designed to be played like this. It's quite a common issue in many golfers' swings, and it happens with every club in the bag. You tend to have more issues with the longer clubs because the longest clubs are supposed to be swung on the flattest plane. Conversely, the shortest clubs like the wedges, you tend to have a little bit more margin for error when it comes to having this club too steep. But all in all, a steep golf swing often leads to many different issues. Contact problems, loss of distance, and typically golfers will slice a lot of the time, although you can equally hit the ball to the left with this type of swing as well. I think it's fair to say that if we can eliminate some of this steepness and get the shallow club back on plane, delivering this club in a more efficient, powerful and accurate manner becomes much easier to do. I've got the HackMotion wrist sensor set up on my wrist and I've got the screen ready to hit some shots. Let me demonstrate what would happen if I had a steep swing, bringing the club up in this more vertical fashion and then also pulling it back down in a similar way. I'd find the contact would become very difficult to manage. That was a super poor contact, very, very fat, hit the ground before the ball. It wasn't pleasant at all. It just shows how working on a plane of swing that isn't conducive to the way the clubs were designed makes this game much more difficult than it already is. The HackMotion there picked up on the fact that my wrists were too extended throughout the swing. The extension of the lead wrist would be this cupping of the lead wrist. From the front view, you may see it as some hinge, wrist hinge, but done incorrectly, the extension would be the angle between the back of the forearm and the back of the palm. This wrist extension causes me to have a steeper than necessary swing. I'll do another one of those, try to show you how the steepness can be caused by the poor wrist hinge, both in the backswing and in the downswing. That contact was better, but that ball's going to have some slice to it, meaning I'm leaking power when I do this. I was able to make some sort of contact, but it really wasn't very good at all. The slice and the distance for that shot were very, very poor. And once again, HackMotion has registered that my wrist was both too extended at the top. It was too extended at the top of the swing, and it was too extended when I hit the ball. One more of those just to show you again. Extension of the wrist gets the shaft very steep, and then pulling down incorrectly on those wrists keeps the shaft very, very steep in transition. There's three terrible shots there, poor contact and very low distance. So what could you do if you wanted to fix that? Well, interestingly, it's the wrists that really control this more than anything. And oftentimes people don't recognize that they're even making a mistake with the wrists. A lot of the time down to the fact that you don't even know you're moving your wrists in any sort of negative way. But let's take that extension movement that I was just referring to, where the lead wrist has this angle or cup to it. And let's reverse that movement. So let's push that wrist as far away as possible into the opposite condition. This would be called flexion. In fact, you'll see here on the avatar as I move my hand from extension, 72 degrees of extension, 73 degrees on the picture there. Shaft is basically vertical, that's bad. And then if I rotate my wrist, flatten it all the way to zero, and then beyond zero into a flex condition, look what happened to the shaft. The shaft went from being almost straight up and down, vertical, to almost horizontal. That's an enormous difference in the pitch of the shaft purely based on the angle of the lead wrist. And I use the lead wrist to show you that reference because it's easy for you to see using the HackMotion sensor. But as I have two hands on the club here, then I would be making the equal and opposite movement with the trail wrist. So my trail wrist would be going from this very flat condition, potentially slightly flexed, and it would be bending backwards into this extended condition. So as I extend my trail wrist, I flex my lead wrist, and those actions take this very, very steep shaft into a place where it's completely shallow. Somewhere between those two extremes likely lies where you want to be. But in order for you to be able to practice that, you first of all need to know what you're looking for. Now let's explore a couple of drills that you can do in order to take this from just a theory and a concept into actually hitting the ball. Quick question for you. Did you know that 80% of your golf ball's direction comes from the club face angle at impact? And it's your wrists that control that angle. If you want to hit straighter shots and add more distance to your game, then check out the link in the description below. So a way that I like to start players on this exercise is to get them to the top and then get them to feel like they flatten that lead wrist almost to the extent that they take their thumbs and point them away from where they are. They don't have them too upright. The pointing the thumbs up often leads to this extension vertical shaft. If I take my thumbs and have the sensation that they're pointing more back towards the camera, like so, and then I complete my backswing, that puts this shaft into a really nice, shallow position. I'll often get players to do that, go to the top, point the thumbs back, complete the backswing, and just start out hitting a few from that position, which will likely produce more of a draw pattern. You see that on the screen there. The HackMotion picked up that I was in better range at the top there. Still suggested I was too extended at impact, but I think partly whilst working through that drill, you can find that you just have to experiment with the feels to produce the outcome that you're looking for. The shallower shaft was certainly in effect there via the wrists being in a different condition. It's a really nice exercise to just start punching the balls out there. Once again, you see how that ball draws to the left, exactly the sort of shape that I would be expecting when doing this exercise, and exactly the sort of shape that you wouldn't be familiar with if you were subject to having a very steep shaft. I mentioned that you might hit the balls to the left, but that would be because you were swinging across the ball and pulling. I'm already beginning to get better contact, better ball flight just by doing that exercise. And then you could transfer that into the full swing, trying to feel like you kept that lead wrist much more flat without stopping this time. Flat wrist, that's a very shallow swing that's going to produce a very large draw. I was trying to exaggerate there the feeling of having this much more laid off. And you'll see there on the HackMotion that I actually demonstrated a little bit too much flexion at the top. I was really trying to exaggerate that for the purposes of the video. And then I was more or less in range at impact. That excessive flexing that I put in there, which helped me to shallow the shaft, in my swing creates a little bit too much of a closed face, hence the overdraw there, that big hook to the left. But if this was something that you needed to practice, this exercise and this feel could be extremely valid and valuable for you. Knowing that you're not supposed to hinge your wrists up, it's a very common thought. People think they have to just take the club and hinge it up. It creates a very steep shaft with a very steep movement of the sweet spot of the club. Instead, feel like you keep your thumbs pointing away from you. Keep working the club and the hands around your body and feel like, again, those thumbs are pointing more down towards the ground as opposed to up to the sky. Up to the sky equals some steepness. Thumbs pointing more down to the ground creates this shallowness, and you can hit balls with that feel. And you should start to increase the quality of your contact, increase the distance. These shots are going significantly further than those first examples that I showed you. And you learn over time to be able to transfer that feeling into your full swing. That last one I hit there was the perfect example of being perfectly in range with the HackMotion wrist sensor, both at the top of the swing, in terms of the right amount of flexion and extension, and then also at impact, which helped me to deliver good impact alignments and hit a pretty nice shot there, a long, high push draw. If you'd found this video useful, I'd encourage you to go ahead and click on the link down in the description of this video, which will take you to more HackMotion wrist training videos. There's so much you can learn about how the wrists are really the engine of the swing. Understanding how the wrists work would unlock a completely level of ball striking for you across every club in your bag. Go and check those out, and I hope you found this video enjoyable and useful.